Hi, I'm Steve Pond from TheWrap. We're here at the Toronto Film Festival, and I'm very pleased to welcome from the return director Uberto Pasolini, actress Juliette Binoche, actor Charlie Plummer. Welcome to all of you, and congratulations on just a wonderful, dark, dramatic film. Uberto, this is a version of basically the last third of the Odyssey by Homer. I mean, the story's been around for what 2,000 years or
3,000 years, I
3,000.
think 3,000 years or more if one imagines the oral tradition that brought it to us before it was written down.
So why a movie now?
Well, there is a reason why we are still talking about the Odyssey after 3,000 years, because it speaks to what it means to be human in the most direct way, I believe. What we focused on, as you say, is the ending of the story, the return of an old soldier. Unfortunately, wars are constant in our lives, continue to be a constant in our lives, in particular in the last few months, years. The war has touched places that we didn't imagine would be again touched by war. And it feels enormously, unfortunately, enormously present in our lives, what Homer was talking about all those centuries, millennia ago. And I feel that he hasn't been approached, he hasn't been the source of filmmaking as much as he should have been. And he always spoke to me when I was a child. He speaks to me now, and he speaks to me in particular with respect to what it means to go to war, what it means to leave your family, what it means to for the family that is left behind, and what it means for the difficulty of a family to get together again. And I hope that we made by going back to the first real story of a return in the history of Western literature to make sense of it for an audience today. So to bring Homer back to us, but also to bring an audience of today into Homer. That's really what drove us to do this.
I mean, I feel like one of the fascinating things about it is that you take Homer and you strip out all the gods and monsters, and you basically say here are the people. Whereas if you read the book, there's the gods are meddling in everything. I mean, was it important to take away that part and say,
To me, yes, because to me, the way Homer speaks to me is as an individual, as a human. To me, it was important to keep the focus, our storytelling about the human emotions, the psychology of the humans, the difficulty of being human, the difficulty of being a good human. And that would have been difficult if every action or most actions of our characters were influenced or managed by the gods, as Homer has it in his poem. So, in a funny way, it's as if we told the story on which Homer then wrote the poem, if you see what I mean. Mm-hmm. He was a poet, we are just simple storytellers, and we told the story as simple storytellers.
Juliette and Charlie, I mean, did you have a relationship with the book before this? Was it something that you read growing up?
Well, when I did 2 years of Greek when I was a teenager, we tried we were trying to translate l'Iliad. How do you say that in English?
The Iliad.
Iliad, and I found it so difficult, so I didn't have good memories about it. And then, but then after that, with my kids, I was reading them the small version, the of the summary version of the Odyssey, and so I really rediscovered. I mean, discovered for the first time with Emily Wilson's translation, which was just beautiful because it feels so naturally, reachable and a real poem, but that has this kind of a heart-to-heart road. So I was mesmerized by the translation and the story as well. But talking about the gods not being around, and I felt very much there was a spirit with us, that was because playing archetypes like this, it's so powerful and yet very simple. Because as a human being, you have this architecture in you, all the big questions, the tree, what is it to feel abandoned? What is it to feel the anger, the rage. What does it feel? How does it feel to be, betrayed and all that? So it felt very genuinely there in us, in me, and so Homer is very alive in everyday basic life in a way.
Mhm. Charlie, what about for you?
Yeah, I mean, just piggybacking off that, I think Juliet's completely right about there being a presence there. And I think my interpretation of, maybe the more mythical aspects of the story coming into our world was that, like, I think everyone experiences, or maybe doesn't, but I certainly do. There is just a natural kind of intuition with things that sometimes taps you on the shoulder a little bit. And so I think there was very much that leading us through that, and specifically for me, I think in the original poem, Telemachus does have this very specific presence of Athena, very specifically, and I think at the beginning, maybe Uberto and I spoke a little bit about it, but that there is no real relationship to that person in our world. And yet for me, I think it was that feeling of maybe there's just someone on the back just nudging me a little bit, just pushing me a little bit. And that did make a world of a difference for me, for sure.
So it was Athena who directed the film, not
Yeah, just for the record, yeah, he did nothing. He did nothing.
me. It was just,
Yes, you were the only god in this equation, right?
well, I'm not
Exactly
sure
what
about
he
that,
just
Oh
said.
gods.
But to me, what is fascinating is these are myths, but the reason that myths survive is because they speak to us as humans. Otherwise, they would just be stories, and we would forget them over the course of millennia, centuries. And the way that we approached the film, was to remind audiences that Homer is not a distant poet that can be studied at school and that's where he should be left, but he speaks to us today continuously, or she speaks. There are some theories that it was a woman, not a man, who wrote or transcribed these stories. And I think that's what we were really aiming for, to break the barrier between the audience and the ancient text, and show them how humanity has changed over the last 3,000 years, and that whatever Homer wrote still speaks to us in a very direct way, not mediated by school, by specialists, by nasty old teachers at school, when we were growing up. It really is an amazingly direct, powerful experience to read it in the original, and also hopefully to experience it through our interpretation.
Yeah. I mean, Juliet, I feel like the conversations that you have with Ralph Fiennes as Odysseus, your husband, who has come back after basically 20 years after leaving for the Trojan War, I mean, they're so sparse in many ways, and there are so many pauses, but there is such respect for the weight of every word between the two of you. I mean, what were those like to film?
Well, first of all, reading the script, it was exciting because every single word meant something. They were not just to fill up the time. It was meaningful, and so you you've got to, as an actor, I always feel that you've got to find the root of why you need to say those words. It's not coming out of your head. It's coming out of your guts and heart, and all linked. But it's true, when you have actors that are so meaningful for yourself, it's really enhancing this power you have the capacity to work with. And I felt very much like with Rafe and Charlie as well, there was this kind of intimacy and yet depth, because as actors, you're searching for something bigger, deeper, special for your life, because you want to lift it to the audience, lift it to an art form. And it was wonderful with Uberto, because he I felt it was so important for him to make this film. Like it's sometimes you have one role in your life or one film in your life, and it felt very much that it was really his major important film for. And so when you feel that every single stitch, you know, on the cloth or the color of this and that it was so meaningful to him, then it just lifts the need of, as an actor, to find inside of you, you know, something that's beyond anecdote, that's beyond what's obvious. You need to find the, first of all, to play a queen is not, you know, that easy, but yet she's very human. She's going through all those terrible emotions she has to go through, and yet, you know, at the end, it just resolves itself, because life gives you gifts as well. But it was a very exciting project for me, and difficult, because it's always edgy in a way, because every single moment is meaningful. But coming back with Rave, you know, after all those years and doing 2 films before and doing this one, it was like a real gift. Yeah.
I think we need to end on that note, but congratulations and thank you for just a beautiful and profound film.
Thank you so
Thank you
much
very
for having
much.
us. Thank you.